Welcome back, KLEAN Radio. So, we have Marty with us. Laquidara?
Laquidara, yeah.
Laquidara.
Is that French?
Sicilian.
Yeah,
I heard you talk. My dad was born in Sicily, too.
Two
Yeah,
Italian.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
he came
really?
over when he was a kid. Came over when he was 2, yeah.
My dad
So-
came when he was about 11. My mom was 2.
Nice. Yeah, from Messina, Sicily.
Are you guys related?
My dad was from Cala Chipeta, and my mom was from Bagheria, outside of Palermo.
My mom was from, she's Irish, so, yeah, my dad's mom hated her for ruining the bloodline. He didn't marry Sicilian. I guess my grandmother's a racist, I think that's, or was, she's dead.
So, Marty, you're sober, right?
Yes, sir. I've
A sober comedian.
been sober for years and years. The only time I had any time before, this now I have several years, but I moved out from Boston in '89, and I had 8 months sobriety.
Right.
And I had got caught doing coke at work, so I didn't really want to get sober at that time. And they paid for my rehab, and everyone was blowing smoke up my butt, so pat me on the back. So I stayed sober for 8 months. Get a call from my childhood buddy in Boston. He's like, dude, I got 2 weeks sobriety. I know you have 8 months. Like, everyone in this small town does blow. I'm going crazy, man. I go, dude, fly out. Women, palm trees, sunshine.
Right.
You come out here, I'll take you to meetings, man. I'll help you out. And so from the time we had that conversation to the time he landed in LA, I had fallen off the wagon into a pile of cocaine and vodka. And here's the thing. I didn't pick him up at the airport because when he flew in, I was in jail.
Oh, no.
So my buddies picked him up at the airport, and had to page him, and then went from the airport to jail to bail me out. And this is what happened. This is what happened. My roommates wanted no part of me at this point. I had a buddy in, so we decided to get a hotel room in Hollywood. And we got tickets to the Arsenio Hall show. This is how long ago it was, right?
Wow, yeah.
So my buddy wants to walk around Hollywood and see all these sights, and I want to drink vodka in an alley. So
I think I'd have to drink vodka in the alley to see Arsenio Hall, but anyway.
yeah.
Hey, I actually used to like the Arsenio Hall show.
I know. I
you
sat in
did.
a dog pound, and Fonzie was
So
on the
did-
show,
yeah.
my childhood hero. So it was
Oh,
cool.
wow.
But so this is what happened. I'm drinking, and he's a big musclehead, and he's not happy that he flew 3,000 miles,
And you're loaded.
I'm hammered. This is what a broke loser I was. I could afford like a small bottle of vodka and a chaser, or a big bottle of vodka and no chaser. So I'm like, give me that huge bottle of pop off, let's do this right. And I'm chasing it with Tic Tacs, and the kid, he's on the verge of killing me. So he's like, just go show me some sights in Hollywood. And I'm like taking him down an alley, say garbage cans where Oscar the Grouch lives. Gulp, gulp, gulp. And he's losing it. So finally we go back to our motel room, and we walk into the parking lot, and what's in the parking lot? A hooker. So like I say, hi, hey, how you doing? And then I go up to my room. We're there 2 seconds, get a knock on the door. It's the hooker. And she's like, hey, do you want a party? I'm like, yeah, come on in. My buddy's like, no, he's trying to shut the door. And I'm like, come on in. She makes a beeline for the bathroom. She's in there like 10 minutes. I'm a drug addict. I know what she's doing. I knock on the door. I go, let me in. I know it. And she lets me in. I'm in the motel bathroom. Now I'm smoking coke.
Right.
With a hooker, where my buddy who flew 3,000 miles so I could help him with sobriety is outside. But this is how crazy it gets. I'm in there smoking coke, and I'm guzzling vodka, right? It gets worse. So I tell the hooker, I go, look, my buddy, I don't want him to think we're up to no good, so start moaning and pretend we're having sex. Right? So I'm like, how bad is your life when your excuse is, hey, nothing going on here, I'm just having sex with this hooker in this dirty motel bathroom, it's all good, right?
But we're not smoking crack.
Right. When your excuse is a felony, you've hit rock bottom, son. But then, it gets even worse. So now, I'm so high and drunk, I can forgive the fact that she probably hasn't showered in 3 weeks and she has no front teeth. Now I want in, so we mess around, right? Yeah. So at the end of it all, she's like, hey, you owe me $600. And I'm all
$600.
Yeah, for the drugs and the sex.
No teeth?
Right.
There's got to be a $500 discount per tooth.
I think it was like $550 for all the coke I smoked, and like $50 for the awful.
It included
sex.
the coke. I didn't know they were dealer/hooker.
Well, see, I smoked a bunch of her coke, and she's like, slow down. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So
Right.
she was charging me. I think $600 was like a drug-sex combination pack.
And this is 1989.
It's bad when the hooker tells you to slow down.
Yeah. So then I'm like. I'm like $600 shy of that goal. Right. And she's freaking out. She starts saying my pimp is going to come up here and kill you guys. Well, let me clarify. I'm not from Boston. I'm from Wilmington, Mass, the suburbs. There was no gun shootings. We got in fist fights. There was no guns.
You're not a
or anything like that.
Southie.
Yeah, no, I wasn't a city kid. So my buddy's panicking. He's thinking we're going to die. We're in this crappy motel room in Hollywood. There's a pimp that's going to come up and shoot us. He's panicking. And like, so now there's a melee. The hotel manager comes up, and so I have a checkbook, but I got to explain how, like, the loser.
He's gonna Jerry Springer the hooker.
No, you have no idea. This is how bad of a loser I was. I have a checkbook, but it's a temporary checkbook without my name on it. And not only is there no money in the account's closed because I did one of those fake deposits on the weekend, like a fake check deposit back when you could do that. Right. Like, hey, I just deposited $500, you pull out all the money, right? So they close my account. I have a temporary
Negative
checkbook,
5,
right? It's closed. It's not nothing. It's a closed account. Like, so the manager's there. I go, at this point, like, will you take a check? She'll take anything. And she's like, so I don't know who to make it out to him, like Miss Hooker, you know. I'll leave that part blank. Hand to God, may God send me dead. True story. So I write the check for $600 and I sign it Bruce Springsteen, and she takes it.
Well, there we go. Full circle. We're back.
Right, we're back to music.
Back to Bruce. Right? I learned that on Cheers. Like, there's an episode where someone signed something.
And I can guess you're a big Bruce Springsteen fan.
Well, he is, because Bruce actually paid the $600.
Yeah, she's tracking him down.
Bruce Springsteen, like, one time is like on the street and some hooker came up there and said, "Your check bounced."
She may have no teeth, but she blew Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, she's like,
Are you allowed to say that on the radio?
I just did.
That's a great story.
Yeah, it's true. I saw.
And how long after that did it take you to get sober?
That was early in about 2 years.
2 years. Wow,
Yeah,
so
I
you
got
went 2
sober
years
the
right
last day
after
in
that.
'91. My first sober day is December 31st, 1991. I actually stayed in and stayed sober on New Year's.
Did you pick that date, or did you?
Yeah, well, because New Year's is the hardest day, and I knew
Right.
if I was a cokehead, so when I partied, it would be 3 days at a time. You know, like, so I knew if I went out New Year's, it wasn't going to end at midnight. And I was going to put the straw and bottle down and be like, I'm done. So I wanted to stay. I was serious, so I said, I'm going to stay in the hardest day, and I stayed in with my girlfriend at the time. And humped in the new year, and then never looked back, because I was ready. That was on my own terms.
Huh.
Yeah.
So what brought you really to that decision? Was there
I tried to
something-
quit for I did coke for like 9.5 years. I tried to quit every time I did it. Like I admired the people that just said, screw it, I'm a drug addict, this is what I do. Like
Right.
I tried to quit every time, and I just got tired of being a loser. I was like 23.
Were you a comedian through this period?
No, that's the sad thing. I didn't get on stage till 2 years after I got sober. I knew I wanted to be a comic my whole life. Like
Right.
that was the only thing I ever wanted to do was play hockey and be a comedian. But
Right.
I didn't make the NHL because I have a gross lack of size and talent. So that kept me out of there. Yeah, like I stink. So that wasn't going to happen. So,
Right.
But I wasn't a functional addict. I was just a mess.
Which goes to what I've spoken about. It's like when you get sober young, because I got sober when I was 22, you got sober when you were 23.
Yeah.
You had no function. You had no manageability. Your life. You like for me, it wasn't like, hey, he's going to go to school.
Yeah.
You know, it was like what rehab you might be getting into. You know, that you had no functionality. You couldn't function in society. The people that get here when we were young.
But plus, I would cry all the time for no reason. Like for like the first 3 years, I wouldn't not sad. I would just be driving or walking, and tears would just because I stifled my emotions down for 10 years. I'd just be walking and talking, and like tears would just start fluttering. For, like the first 3 years, I'm like crying like a schoolgirl for no reason.
Your nickname was Puddles.
Yeah, like I just like, huh.
I heard something very significant. You said you made a decision to stop,
Yeah.
and you did,
Yes.
which is a conscious decision. Very much like when you use, that's also a conscious decision.
This is a big debate. You know, AA says that you have to turn it over to a higher power. There's all these different ideas about what it takes to get sobriety. My belief is that people actually make a decision and they choose to, and then it's really that you have to not drink or not use.
Well, that's what I heard him say.
But it's
Right.
also what it says.
Right.
Make a decision to turn your will and your life over.
Over to a higher power,
Right.
Who will then give you the power to stop drinking. I'm saying that can come from within.
I don't believe that's what it says, though. I think it says that if you admit you're powerless, you're regaining power.
You have to turn it. It says turn your life over. That's a sticky thing.
It
too.
is. It's all
Yeah.
Your will and your life.
your will and your
Your
life.
life.
It is very confusing. It's, because you hear a lot of people say, and this is what the problem I've always had with, you hear people say, my disease is doing push-ups and sit-ups outside.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear all these, thoughts, and it's, you have to make the decision. It's your decision. It's like you're the one that has to get to meetings. You're
It's
the
like
one that has to
subtle-
stop drinking.
Subtle difference between the words, giving up, the expression giving up, and surrendering.
Right.
And I had a difficult time with that in my early sobriety, and then when I accepted that basically what I'm doing, I'm surrendering to this particular path that I'm on,
Right.
and saying it's just not working. Instead of like, all right, I give up, starting already with that attitude of like, all right, there's got to be something else I can do. But just surrender and say, you know what, clearly I've banged into a wall every single time I've gone on this path. So I surrender, and then when doing so, then it turns out to be the bedrock, I think, upon which purposeful and useful lives can be built.
Sounds good.
This admission of of complete lack of power, and then suddenly you start to gain power.
I mean, I think it's
What's the
dangerous. I find it dangerous to deconstruct Alcoholics Anonymous because I think that it works for a lot of people the way it is. And yet at the same point, sometimes I feel there's this overwhelming sort of quick read of the big book.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
That gives people this out that they don't really have the ability to control their own behavior.
Without a doubt.
And I think that what's very interesting is that a lot of people mistake the fact that they do have willpower and they do have ability to change very difficult patterns in their lives, but change is extremely hard. And Dr. Koh, I mean, you deal with very difficult clients, and obviously people don't change easily, do they?
Exactly. It's tough.
What's the key to trying to get people to change? Where do you think it comes from? Do you think it comes from working with treatment professionals? Does it come from the individual inside? Does it come from some sort of spiritual faith and power? Is it a combination?
Oh, you're asking a really hard question.
I know, I'm putting you on the
That's what I
spot.
love. You see, that's what's amazing to him about us as him being a psychiatrist. What other psychiatrists would say? That's a really hard question.
You're going to ruin my billing.
Yeah. That's right.
It's all of those things. There's some people who come to treatment and the process has already started. So they've made a decision. Okay, I'm going to stop using, or they realize that they have these maladaptive patterns, whether it's addiction or relationships or whatever it is, and they've already been working on it, but they can't quite do it on their own, or they realize they can't. They need some assistance. So the process is already going with them. Then there are other people who the environment brings in, their family, their spouse, and they say, look, you're going to lose something seriously if you don't get help. And, sometimes they buy into it, sometimes they don't. Sooner or later, though, people get the message that they have to do something about themselves.
For those of us that have really studied, psychiatry and psychology, there's this thing called the DSM, Diagnostic Statistical Manual, and in there,
not my favorite.
Not your favorite document, but in there,
Yeah.
there's this Axis 2 category of illnesses, right, which are called personality disorders.
Right.
Right. Describe what that is, and because when a psychiatrist looks at people, right? I mean, I know you look at the individual and all that, but there are these certain characteristics of personality traits that people generally fall into, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about what that means and what the different basic types of personalities are?
Yeah. Oh, DSM. There's some good things about it. Like Axis 1 is where we code the primary psychiatric problem, whether it's depression, schizophrenia, bipolar, obsessive compulsive disorder. These are generally disorders that upset the individual that has them. They don't feel good with that. But Axis 2 is the personality disorder, and what we're talking about there are characteristic patterns of behavior that are consistent within that individual. Now, typically a personality disorder is egocentric, and by that I mean
It's a big word. What does that mean?
It means this feels good to the person doing it.
Right.
This feels normal, but to the psychiatrist, if you call it a personality disorder, it means that in some way it's maladaptive.